Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel Ethical Truths. Today in this video, I am going to tell you about various security features provided by GitHub to secure your repository. GitHub provides a number of features to keep your repository secure. Be it a public repository or a private repository, GitHub has solution for all. In this today's video, I will be focusing on adding security settings into a repository. If you are not aware about what all security features GitHub provides, you can visit my last video in which I have given an overview of different security features provided by GitHub. You can click on the I button on the top right to get the link of the video. So without further ado, let's start with our today's video. Do configuration settings for your repository to make it more secure. You need to have a specific role for that. So either you need to be an organizational owner for your repositories, or you need to be having an admin access of that. So that is like your first requirement to have your security settings in your repository. Second thing is for various features. So depending on your repository type, whether it is public or private, GitHub provides different kind of solutions, different kind of features. So for different kind of repositories, the solution might differ. So depending on what license you have or what kind of repository you have, some security features might vary. Okay, so let's start with the first security features. The first step to secure your repository is to configure who can view and can control your repository. Okay, so let's see how you can manage your repository visibility and the access control of that. I'm taking an example of this repository. As you can see, this is a public repository. So what we will do, we will click on this settings button, and under the settings, we will scroll down to the bottom to this danger zone. Okay, and here you can see we have an option to basically change the repository visibility. Here you can see in the first, currently our repository is public. That's why you are seeing the option. This repository is currently public, and we have an option to change the visibility to make it from public to private. So in this manner, you can change your repository settings so that you can change the visibility of your repository. Similarly, if I'll go to another repository, which is a private repository, if I'll go to settings again, and if I scroll down to bottom to this danger zone, I can see this repository is currently private. And similarly, if I click on this change visibility button, I'm having this option that is to change to public. Okay, in this manner, you can change visibility of your repository to make it more secure. You can change from public to private or private to public as per your requirement. Okay, this is related to view settings of your repository. Second one is who can basically manage your repository. So I will scroll to the top under the settings. So I click on the settings button, and under the settings button, you will see an option access. Under the access, you will see a button collaborators. When you click on this collaborator button, you can see that who can access your repository. Okay. So as you can see, for this under this direct access, there are no collaborators which are present here. Zero collaborators means only I can access this repository. This is a private repository and only I can access this repository. I can add the code into this. Okay, this is like a collaborator thing. Similarly, if I go to my another repository which is a public one, if I scroll to the top again, if I click on collaborator, here also you can see that no one is having direct access to my repository. So in this manner, you can change your view settings as well as collaborator settings. So in this manner, you can change your visibility settings as well as access settings to provide some more security to your repository. Okay, so next one is your managing the dependency graph. Dependency graph is enabled by default for public repositories, and for forks or private repositories, you can enable it. Dependency graph interprets the manifest and log files to get information about dependencies. And by getting information of dependencies, it can basically see what vulnerabilities are present in the dependencies. Okay, so let's see how we can configure, how we can enable this dependency graph. So I'll start with this public repository first. So under this public repository, what we will do, we'll go to this settings button. Just click on this settings button. Then we will go to this section security. Under the security, you will find this code security and analysis button. Just click on this. Under this, you will see one section that is dependency graph. Okay. Since this is a public repository, so it is enabled by default, and we do not have the option to disable it for the public repositories. It will be enabled by default and it will remain enabled. Okay. And as you can see, it is also written here, dependency graph is always enabled for public repositories. Okay. Now, if I'll go to private repositories, again, I'll go to settings. I'll go to security, code security and analysis. Here you can see dependency graph. We have an option to disable or enable it. For now it is enabled. That's why we are seeing this disable button to disable this. So if I click on this disable, okay, so it will now dependency graph is basically disabled for this private repository. Now in option to enable this, if I click on enable, we can see that it has been enabled now. Now where we can see whether dependency graph, what is present, what is not. For that, what we can do, we can go to this insights button, which is present on this top. I'll click on this here, and then under the inside, you can see so many options on the left. Under this, just click on this dependency graph, and in this dependencies you can see all the dependencies which is being used in the repository. Okay, this is private repository. Similarly, if we go for the public repository, I click on this insight button, click on this dependency graph, we can see there are so many dependencies which are present, and we can see all those getting listed down here. So this is a second option which you can configure into your repository, which is by default enabled for public repositories, and you have an option to enable it for private repositories. So next one is your managing Dependabot alerts. So I just told you like about the dependency graph. So dependency graph keeps interpretation of all the dependencies which are getting used into the project. So if GitHub identifies presence of any vulnerability in those dependency, it creates a Dependabot alerts for them. Okay, how we can see it, how we can enable it, let's just see. So I'll go to this repository again, this public repository, stock market. I'll go to settings. Under this settings, you go to this code security and analysis. You can see there is a section that is Dependabot. Okay, as you can see, it is written here. It keeps your dependencies secure and up to date. So if you enable this Dependabot alerts, what you will get alerts for the vulnerabilities that we are having in our dependencies, and we can enable it to get alerts of those. So we just click on this enable. So now what it will do, it will give alerts for all the vulnerabilities present into our dependencies. So if I click on this security tab, on this security, under this overview, you can see that this Dependabot alerts is enabled. Okay, and if you want to see how many alerts this particular Dependabot has identified, you can just click on this section under the security vulnerability alerts Dependabot, and you can see there are 145 Dependabot alerts which are present currently. Okay, these are open Dependabot alerts. Okay, this is for public repository. Similarly, if I'll go for private repository, before going to private repository, I'll again go to the dependency graph under this insight section, under this dependency graph, and you can see all the vulnerabilities present in the dependency which you're using. Like this particular dependency which I'm using is having three critical Dependabot alerts. If I click on this also, view Dependabot alert, it will again take me to this section and will show me the alerts which are present here. Okay, these are all related to this particular dependency. Now you can see this is 34. Okay, so these are different vulnerabilities present. Similarly, if I'll go to this private repository now, I'll again go to the settings, this code security and analysis. If I click, I can go to this Dependabot section, and I can see this is not enabled for now. So I'll just click on enable. You can see this is enabled now. If to check whether it is enabled or not, what I'll do, I'll go to this security tab. I'll go to this overview, and I can see here like the Dependabot alerts is enabled. Okay. If I go to this vulnerability alert section now, I can see there are 70 vulnerabilities which are present into this. Okay. Now, if I'll go to dependency graph again to check, I can see like under this dependency graph, for all these dependencies which are present, there are these many Dependabot alerts which are present. Some are for critical level, some are for high, some are moderate. Okay. So this is like a next thing which you can do to enable the Dependabot alerts for your repository, so that it will give you an alerts whenever it identifies presence of any vulnerability in your repository. So that's a good option to have. Fourth one is your managing Dependabot security updates. So for all the vulnerabilities identified by Dependabot gives you an option to automatically generate pull request for same. Okay, so let's see how we can do it. So I'll start with the public repository first, this stock market. Again, I'll go to this settings tab. Under this, I'll again go to this security section and we'll click on code security and analysis. And under this Dependabot, I can see this Dependabot security updates. Okay, so now what Dependabot security updates will do, it will allow Dependabot to open pull request automatically to resolve Dependabot alerts. So what I'll do, I'll just click on enable. Okay, now it has been enabled. Now what next I'll do, I'll go to the security tab. I'll go to this Dependabot alert section again, and I can see there are so many pull requests which has been created for this particular alerts. Okay, so these are alerts which are created for this. So if I go to this any of this pull request, okay, we can see these are pull requests which are created. Some of them are created by me manually, or some of them are created by this particular Dependabot bot automatically. As you can see, opened yesterday by Dependabot. Okay, so this is created by this Dependabot. Okay, if I click on this, I can see what it is trying to do. It is trying to basically, if I'll go to this file change, what it's trying to do, it is trying to update a particular dependency version from this particular version A to particular version B. Similarly, if I'll go to this private repository and just go to the settings, go to this code security analysis, I will enable this for security updates. Now I'll go to this security tab. After enabling it, I'll go to this Dependabot, and I can again see some pull request has been created for this Dependabot alert. So what I'll do, I can just let's go to details of this for particular Dependabot alert. Okay, you can see details of this, like this is one particular Dependabot alert which has been created. There are details of this Dependabot alert which you can see. Okay, now if I'll go back, there was a pull request which is present here. So if I just click on this particular pull request number 10, you can again see the details on changes which are suggested by this Dependabot. Okay, and also since when we merge this pull request, merging this pull request will basically resolve one high severity Dependabot alert for this particular package, like this org.testng. Okay, so in this manner, So in this manner, you can enable Dependabot security updates, and Dependabot will create a pull request automatically on your behalf and will suggest changes which you can just review and can apply so that it will be merged into master. And in this manner, you can keep your dependencies up to date to avoid having any security vulnerability into your dependencies. Next one is your managing Dependabot version updates. So previously I showed you like about managing Dependabot security updates. Now this one is your managing Dependabot version updates. So in security updates, if your version A is having any security vulnerability, it will tell you about having the latest version which is having the fixes related to that particular dependency. Okay, but what Dependabot version updates will do, it will keep on checking if there are any latest version present for the dependency which you are using, and as soon as it finds any latest version for your dependency, it will basically upgrade you. It will create a pull request for you so that you can upgrade it to the latest step. Okay, let's see how we can do it. I will again start with this public repository stock market. I'll go to the settings, I'll click this code security and analysis, and here you can see an option Dependabot version updates. Okay, here is an option of clicking configure. Okay, when we will click on this configure option, we will get an automatic template file that is in YML format, that is, this is a workflow file. Basically, it will provide you a default template which you can use it directly, or if you want, you can customize it according to your needs. I will not go into details of how we can implement it, how we can modify this YML file into this video. I'll talk about this in later in detail in next videos. Okay, for now you can just click on that configuration button and it will provide your default file. You can edit it as per your requirement and just either can commit the changes, or if you do not want, you can just cancel changes. For now, since I'm already having this particular file and I didn't make any commit, I didn't make any changes, that's why it's not allowing me to commit the changes. Okay, but once you do it, once you add this particular file inside this .github folder, what it will do, it will start creating pull request for any updates present for your dependencies. So similarly, again, it will be created by Dependabot. It will be against related to this. So it will be a version updates. Okay. If I similarly go to for private repository, I'll go to this code security and analysis. I can see this Dependabot version updates. Here, since it is not enabled by default, that's why I'm seeing an option to click on enable. And I can see it is providing me a default template. Now I have an option. Basically, I can provide the package ecosystem, what package ecosystem I'm using in my project, the directory of that package manifest, how I want to run it. Do I want to schedule it weekly, daily, whatever options I want. And if I do any changes, let's suppose I do any changes, as soon as I change the package ecosystem, I'm having this commit changes. Okay, next one is your managing dependency review. Dependency review is an advanced security feature provided by GitHub, which lets you visualize dependency change in your pull request before it gets merged into master. Since it is an advanced security feature, that's why for all the public repositories, it is by default provided, but all the private repository, you need to have an advanced security license to use this dependency review feature. Okay, so let's see how we can use it. I'll start with public repository, this start stock market public. I'll go to this settings. Since this is a public repository and for public repositories it is enabled by default. So I'll just go to this pull request. I'll open any of the pull request. Then what you'll do, you go to this files change, and under this file change, you have two options. Okay, either to display the source difference or display the rich difference. Okay, so when you click on this, you can see the version which is your particular dependency which is getting updated. Okay, so this is your pom.xml file, and this is your dependency which is updating. This is the version which is getting updated. Now this orange button means this particular dependency is already present in your pom.xml file, and we are just changing the version of this particular dependency. If there is no particular dependency present in your file already, then you will get something like plus button, which will signify that you are adding a new dependency. And if you are kind of deleting a dependency, then you will get something like minus here, which will determine that you are deleting the existing dependency which is already present. So this is part of your dependency review, which gives you a kind of a visualization into a pull request before you merge this change into master. Okay, this is enabled by default for public. Okay, and for private repositories, if I'll go here in the pull request, in go to this file change, you'll see that there is no option which is present here. Okay, because this is a private repository and private repository needs advanced GitHub security license to use this feature. Okay, so if you want to use this for your private repository, you just need to purchase the GitHub advanced security license. But if you're already having your private public repository, then you can use it directly. Next one is your configuring code scanning. Code scanning is a security feature provided by GitHub by which you can scan your code for presence of any security vulnerability presence or some coding alerts. Okay, you can use either GitHub provided tool, that is your CodeQL, or you can use some third-party tools as well. Again, this is an advanced security feature which is provided for public repository by default, and for private repository you need to have an advanced security license to use this particular code scanning feature. Now let's see how we can use this. I'll go to this public repository and I'll go to the settings button. Under this we will have this section security, and under this section we can see code security and analysis. And here we can see there is a section called code scanning. Okay, so what code scanning will do, it will automatically detect common vulnerabilities and coding errors. Either you can use the CodeQL analysis tool which is provided by GitHub, or you can use some other tools as well into this. So if I go to this CodeQL analysis and we can just click on this setup, and it will provide you two options. First is your default option, which you can set it up for your repository, and if you want to have some customization, some modification as per your requirement, you can have this advanced section. Okay, now for the repository which I'm using, the language which is present in my repository is not compatible with this CodeQL analysis. That's why you can see this default option is disabled, and you can see the message as well here. Languages detected in this repository are not compatible with this setup type at this time. Use the advanced setup instead. So by default it is not supported by CodeQL, and but we can use this advanced feature to set it up for our repository. Okay, if I'll click on this advanced button, it will give me a template, kind of a workflow file, which is in YML format. I can do modifications, configurations as per my requirement. I will not go into detail of this, how we can do it, what we can do in this today's video. We can do it later on into some other part. For now you can just click on enable it. You can just click this commit changes, and it will be enabled into your repository. So by this you can scan for the presence of any dependencies, presence of any vulnerabilities in your dependencies, in your code, or some coding errors as well. Okay, again this is available only for public repositories and not for private repositories. For private repositories you need to have advanced license. So if I'll go to this private repository, click on this code security and analysis, you can see there is no section like code scanning which is present for this private repository. Next is your configuring secret scanning. Similarly to code scanning, there is an option of scanning presence of secrets in your repository, so that if there is any secrets present, you can basically scan for that, and you can avoid or you can fix presence of those secrets into your repository. Again, this is provided only for public repositories, and if you want to use it with your private repositories, you need to have GitHub Advanced Security license. Now, secrets are also of two types. One is your partner secret, which is by default sent to partner if it is getting identified in your repository. Second one is your user secret. User secrets are those secrets which are basically present in your repositories and which are configured by you. Okay, so if I'll go to repository again, I'll go again to this code security analysis section, and here I can see this secret scanning section. Okay, so whenever we'll have some secrets which is present in my repository, we can have this alerts. So as you can see, it is written here, receive alerts on GitHub for detected secrets, some keys, or some other tokens. Since I've enabled it, that's why I'm not seeing the enable button here. Okay, now if you want to see where are those secrets, I can just click on this security button, and under this secret scanning, if there will be any secrets which is being identified this GitHub tool, you will see the presence of those secrets vulnerabilities here. Same like this Dependabot, you will see some numbers here and a list of all the secrets which is identified this GitHub. Now this is for public repository. Now if I'll go to private repository, under this settings, code security analysis, I am not seeing any secret scanning section. Similarly, if I'll go to the security, I am not seeing any secret section under this vulnerability alert, since this is a private repository and I do not have advanced security license for this. Okay. Last one is setting a security policy. So if you are maintainer of a repository, it is a good practice to specify a security policy for your repository in a file called security.md. The security policy defines, it helps user to basically contact you and collaborate with you in case they identify any vulnerability into a repository. Let's see how we can configure the security policy. For this, what I'll do, we will just go to the security tab. Under this overview, you can see in this security policy. Okay, here it is see that it is disabled because there is no security policy present for this particular repository as of now. If you will see the description, here you can see define how users should report security vulnerability for this repository. If I click on this set up a security policy, what it will do, it will take me to this reporting policy here and will give me an option to set up a security policy. If I click on this start setup, you can see a file security.md which is getting created in this particular repository. This is some default template. You can modify this security policy file as per the requirement. If I just click on this commit changes here, it is creating some security MD file. I'm doing it directly into master branch for now. If I go to this repository, now I can see presence of this security.md file now. Here I can see the security.md file is present and it is having a default template. Again, if you want to see, you can go to the security tab here. Now you will see the security policy is enabled because security.md file is present in this. And if you go to the security policy, view the security policy, it will take you to this section and you can see the same content which was present inside that security.md file. Okay, so this is for public repository. Similarly, if you want to have security policy for a private repository, you can do same for this as well. You can just click on set up a security policy, or you can just go directly to this policy tab and you can just click on start setup. Again, it will give you a ready-made template which you can use or you can change according to your requirement. You can just commit changes and it will again display that updated file here. So these are all the settings which you can do in terms of repository to make your repository more secure. Okay, by having some alerts, to having some security policies, to having code scanning, to having dependency reviews, to prevent merging of any vulnerable changes into your master branch. So all of these settings will make your SIP repository secure, and you can use it by default. Since it is provided by default for public repositories, you can use all these features, and some of the features are only provided with the advanced security license for private repositories. So if you want to use all these security features with private repository, you need to have this license. Okay, so that's all in the today's video. In the next few videos, I'll talk more about how we can configure security settings into our repositories to make it more secure. What are different options which we can use. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give it a thumbs up. I love hearing from you, so leave a comment down below with your thoughts and suggestions. And do not forget to subscribe to my channel, Ethical Cruise. Also, you can visit my blogging website, ethicalcruise.com, where you can read more about the security basics, some footprinting, reconnaissance, AWS, and all. I will see you all in the next video to continue with this GitHub security features.